Do you use lubricant in your sexual activities? At a party, I was talking about how I hated having lube on my hands because it gets everywhere, and my guy friend looked at me with disgust and said, "You use lube?" As if it was outlandish, a female uses lube. In an attempt to prove a point, I come to this sub with a question: how many ladies use and possibly prefer using lube during sex? I use lube often and have been using it basically since I started having consistent sex in my 20s. I'm 34 and we use it a lot tbh. I'll use it on my husband during foreplay and on myself with my vibrator. Nothing wrong with lube. People are missing out cause that shit makes things feel better IMO that shit makes things feel better IMO except for that brief first second where it's ice cold lol. Wonder if they sell home lube warmers like they have at nice ultrasound places, maybe a baby bottle warmer? It'd be pretty affordable. They work well for fixing honey that solidifies too, since they're not hot enough to melt plastic bottles and whatnot. Honestly, it's a great kitchen tool to have. I'd probably get two and keep my honey bottle warmer and lube bottle warmer separate. You wouldn't want to accidentally put lube in your tea or honey before sex. That would suck. Taste good at least. It's antimicrobial ... so I suppose it's clean too. Small blessings. And hey, you never know, you might end up needing that bottle warmer 9 months later. Good idea. Also looks like there are massage oil warmers in the same general 50-ish price range. Silicone-based is way less that way, but it gets on absolutely everything. Doesn't even matter how careful you are with it. You use that enough and eventually everything that isn't alcohol wiped gets silicone on it lol. Also, silicone lube can damage silicone toys. So if you're using them together, it's a good idea to put a condom on the toy if possible. Nah, don't use silicone toys with silicone lube in any proximity whatsoever, unless you were to say, fit the entire toy into the condom and tie it off. Kinda a lot of work versus having a separate silicone safe set of toys, but that would work. I hold a glob of lube in my hand for a while till it's warm and then apply it to the hubby, unless I'm feeling a bit mean. I was like, you're missing out or your girl is missing out. That disgust in his reaction. This is not a man who is good at sex, but he thinks that he is great. No, that's a man who prefers sex in ways that are red flags. I had an ex start talking about how his ex liked dry humping, and he literally meant him sticking it in while she was drier than Sahara. He used those words. I just said that sounded unhealthy and shot down any further discussion of that topic. He was a walking bunting of red flags. I never believed that his ex or any woman would actually want like that, and I don't want to know if it's an actual thing for some women. Please. But I do know that he enjoyed inflicting pain, particularly of the non-consensual type. I think he was testing to see if it was something he could make me consent to or get away with doing without consent. And he seemed extremely disappointed that I didn't want anything to do with the topic at all. Anytime I'm reminded of that, I'm also reminded of how far he had already pushed my boundaries and expectations that he could straight up say shit like that and me not considering it anything other than common idiocy on his behalf and not a red flag that shows a lack of concern for his partner's health and well-being or worse. His reveling in their pain and the physical and mental harm he was inflicting. Upvoting for bunting of red flags. Glad he's gone. I just hope he fell into an active volcano or like, so he won't terrorize anyone else. But we're probably not that lucky. My country barely has hills, let alone mountains or volcanoes, but a woman can always hope. Can't she? Your guy friend that did this sounds a little incel-ish, tbh. Like Ben Shapiro style. I love that Shapiro actually said his doctor wife said that there was something wrong with a woman who has a wet-ass pussy. I definitely use lube. It's for his benefit. I mean, seriously, it will wreck him if I go in without it. Oh, wait, we're not talking about pegging? You had me in the first half, not gonna lie. Your guy friend told on himself, and I feel bad for the women he's slept with. Ha 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 ha. I said this. Yes. What was his response? I think our curiosity is going unanswered. This is it. This is the answer. I will never understand other men who, talking to their female friends about sex in particular, act shocked or judgmental about what they hear instead of taking notes. Absolute dumb bases. Ben, is that you? We use it regularly, and have for years. It's part of our play and routines now. Yay, dude. After ovulation, follicular shit gets drier even if you're turned on. Tell your guy friend to grow up and work on his pipe game. What a dork. Thoughts and prayers to the poor women who he thinks he pleased. He sounds like a guy I was hooking up with when I was in my teens. I was on stress, and even though I felt aroused, I just couldn't get very wet. I had to beg him to use lube because he was trying his best with his hands to make something work and it wasn't happening. He tried to go in without it, and I told him it hurt too much and it wouldn't fit. To which he responded, I don't think any guy would complain about not being able to fit. Eventually, he did use lube after, but the feeling was terrible because let's just say he wasn't the smallest and was jackhammering away. If there is a God, then that man will read this comment. LMMFA. I can hear the whiny. It's her fault for not being wet enough from him from a mile the way over here. I mean, those buffoons literally love to just use their spit. No wonder so many women get UTIs. My husband and I have come to an agreement that we both brush our teeth before sex. Game changer. If you implement this, just remember, if they finish their cleaning with a mouthwash, for the love of God, make them rinse it out with water. Minty vagina is not a great experience. Weirdly enough, some people do enjoy the minty sensation. This is the best relevant username I've ever seen. I get that a lot. TMI incoming, I kept getting a weird, sweaty, itchy scrack that wouldn't go away without fungal meds and couldn't figure out for the life of me why. Turns out, it would happen after. My husband would brush his teeth and then go down on me. His saliva would still have a little toothpaste in it, and it would irritate my booty flora somehow. I have him. Be sure to rinse extra thoroughly now before sex at times. Spit, unwashed genitals, and dirty hands. So glad I do not date anymore. Amen. I'd say that dude wipes were a game changer when they got popularized. Despite being repackaged baby wipes, it normalized some level of sexual hygiene for men. Having had partners express how clean and pleasant smelling I was as we were getting hot and heavy certainly boosted my ego at the time. Now that I'm married and not dating, it's been great to just prep and be clean before we get dirty. Sadly, too many men are programmed by TV and porn to realize they gotta be clean for anyone to really want to appreciate them. Hi, wastewater operator here. I humbly ask that you do not flush those flushable Jude wipes. I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying, in case anyone else reads this, they are certainly flushable in the same way a sock is flushable. They don't break down like TP does. I've been elbow deep in pumps, declogging them. So, anyone reading this, please don't flush flushable wipes. Yes, UTI ahoy. The amount of unclean men is astonishing. My friend told me so many terrible stories of her husband and the UTI and thrush problems she got with him. I used to get UTI with my ex-husband all the time, multiple times a year, but with my current of 7 years, not once. Difference? My husband washes his dick before intercourse. Spit makes it drier, BTW. Yeah, I'd rather use nothing than spit. That's gross. Huge turn off here. Even with fluid-bonded partners, if they spit on me, I'm standing up leaving. The first time I saw a guy spit, I was appalled. I still hate it so much. Wife and I joke about sharing a microbiome, but fluid-bonded is a new one. Pretty sure either of us would immediately get up and leave if spitting was involved. I do. It keeps condoms from ripping. Rubber has more friction than skin. Not being willing to use lube is an immediate deal breaker for me. If I can't be comfortable and you can't take my needs into consideration, bye. Use it when needed without shame. But there was certainly a point in my life where I might not have realized that there was nothing wrong with needing it sometimes. And I certainly suffered through enough dry, uncomfortable sex instead of just using live. Oh, for sure. Once you see the light PF lube, it's tough to come back. Just for balance, I personally don't like using lube for PIV. It's just a personal preference, as I don't like the sensation of it getting everywhere. But it is very funny if a guy is shocked. People do use lube lol. It does get everywhere. If I don't have to, I won't. But I'm not disappointed when I do. What leaves me fucking flabbergasted is that these MFERS could be working on literally anything mechanical, slap some lube on it so 2 parts fit together, and then be absolutely dumbfounded that maybe this concept would help with sex too. Plumbing requires lube. Aren't our parts referred to as plumbing? I'm 38 and my natural stuff isn't as it was. I always use lube and it's not a problem. We have bottles on both sides of the bed and we use it frequently. It's mandatory for when I give him a hand job or if he's rubbing my junk. It's also great for PIV and toys and anal or whatever. Lube is fun. Definitely need unscented and scented flavored stuff if it's getting near my lady bits. But luckily, sex stores have huge varieties now. That dude was corny and probably sucks in bed. I'm mostly having sex with women, and a dildo is always better with lube. Plus, like, what if I want to have anal sex? Or use a particularly big toy? Or have sex for a really long time? Lube is the champion of fun, spontaneous sex decisions. I always have it handy. Lube is single-handedly carrying sex on its back. I've often heard shame from people that if your vagina is dry, there must be something wrong with you or you're dried up. But sometimes people don't naturally produce enough lubricant in the moment that they want to have sex. You can be mentally turned on, but your vagina doesn't want to do its job. Sometimes you just want to go multiple rounds, so why not use a little help? It's like people that get offended when you want to include sex toys. Your guy friend sounds like the kind of guy who thinks that his foreplay should be good enough to get a woman ready when it probably includes poking at her a couple of times, completely missing the clitoris, and then trying to jam it in. I definitely need lube with that guy. His attitude would make my lady bits dry as a bone. Considering men today think foreplay is taking off clothes, every woman could use some good lube. He probably doesn't put oil in the pan to saute either. Winning at brow game prefer using. Lol, it is 100 for me. I use lots of lube. It hurts if I don't. I'm in perimenopause. I need the lube or it hurts going in. Why would it even exist if people weren't using it? His bewilderment just speaks to his ignorance and arrogance, as his follow-up was my sheets would say otherwise. Wash your goddamn sheets, bro. He associates it with gay sex. Men are shocked by the stupidest shit. Who would be surprised by this? I use lube when needed. Absolutely. I've never understood why more men can't understand that lube is a valuable assistant rather than an insult and embrace it as and when needed. Performance anxiety is a thing for women too. If your body isn't keeping up with your brain, it's all too easy to let yourself get caught up in stressing about it. And that's going to dry things up even more. A dab of lube stops all that right away, and very often. Once you aren't thinking about what is or isn't happening, natural lubrication kicks in and catches up. Lube makes everything slippery and fun. I have nothing to prove. Yeah, 'cause my partners last for more than 9 minutes and because I want to be able to walk the next day without a rug burn in my vagina from some guy thinking he's too good for lube. I had to use lube when I was on the BC pill because the specific pill I was on made me dry AF. I also have a lot of toys that insert much better when you use lube on them. We're currently out and I'm not happy about it. Lol, I've never used lube or had the desire to use it, but I don't think it's weird or bad to use it or that it signals anything negative. Sometimes your body and your desire don't align. Sometimes a person with a penile has a lot of sexual desire but can't get an erection. Sometimes a person with a vagina has a lot of sexual desire but doesn't produce enough lube naturally. It's fine. You don't have to DIY sexual lubrication. Store-bought is fine too. Necessary if I'm penetrated with anything bigger than 2 fingers. This kind of man only care about their own pleasure. It doesn't matter if it hurts their partner, if they're dry or tight. I'm sure he also feels emasculated by sex toys and such. You're supposed to use lubricant with condoms, or if you just need the extra. It helps prevent condoms from breaking. It helps prevent tearing and infection. It makes everything feel better. The stigma around lube is a gross, sad lie that prevents more people from having better sex. I would mirror his attitude back at him, you don't, as if he's the one with the problem, because he is. The general consensus of the room was you don't lol. Sometimes it's needed, sometimes it's not. Puritans out there sex shaming in a different way FFs. Kinda shows little experience IMO. His answer gave me everything I needed to know about what sex with him would be like. I don't need it frequently, but sometimes it's absolutely necessary. I prefer not to use it, but certainly will when needed, and I'm aware that as I age, it might be needed more. And I could easily see how it's an every time thing for some people. And there's nothing wrong with that. Eyes not 20/20, get glasses or contacts. When it comes to vision, store-bought is fine. Neurotransmitters refuse to exist in a balance that allows you to function. Medication exists. Store-bought is fine. Don't feel like going caveman while camping and want to forego primitive friction-based methods for fire? Hey, look, I have strikers and lighters. Store-bought is fine. Not enough natural lubrication for whatever you're doing. For literally any reason, including bodies. Just don't make it in a way that feels best for you. The drugstore has some good news for you. Store-bought is fine. And sometimes those store-bought serotonin pills make lube more necessary. I've always needed it because my skin is super sensitive, but I use twice as much as I used to since starting SRIS. I am a woman and I definitely have a collection of different lubes for playtime. I am thankful my guy is not intimidated by toys, can appreciate lube for various things. If a guy got weird with me about a toy or lube, it assumed that dude is boring in bed. Lube, lube, lube. Life is better lube. Also, get yourself a set of sex towels black washcloth size. Hand towel and bath towel size has changed our game. Wiping your hand clean and continue the fun. He's probably of the opinion that he doesn't need a vibrator to please a woman. 2. People like this don't see sex toys as enhancers, but repressors. It's his insecurity. And yeah, we have a bottle of lube on each nightstand. I mean, sometimes the juices just don't get flowing as well as other times. Besides, lube is essentially required for any type of anal stuff, or large toys, etc. If we're talking about regular PIV, I think it's common for especially younger people to not need any. But like, how old is the guy to not know that some do? Menopause would like a word. Lol. I'm 43 and spayed. It's drier than the desert. I was a specific sub years ago that really didn't like it because it meant as a woman your partner wasn't doing enough foreplay to create a natural lubrication PIV, or you have some sort of medical condition that prevents your vagina from lubricating itself. Oh lordy, I remember a particularly bad sex ed book that instructed men to pull on a woman's labia to get her wet, not stroke it or lick it, but to actually tug on it. Even with natural lubrication, lube can be great. I always use it. Maybe I'm just sensitive. Also don't know why anyone else needs to care if someone prefers it. I know some medications have that side effect because I'm on one actually lol. I don't need it lube as much as I did before though. We use lube, especially after I recovered from birth. I had 4th degree tear and lots of stitches. Raising my hand, hell yes. I think I'm quoting Dan Savage. Nobody ever said no to more lube. I'm entering perimenopause and drier than the Sahara sometimes. Lube is a must, or I'm very uncomfortable for a day or two afterwards. I also has horrendous periods in my younger years and had to use Super Plus tampons. They would make my vagina dry and it was difficult to put them in. A little lube helped tremendously. Thanks mum for telling me. I'm on antidepressants. LMAO lube is a must-what. I don't use it every time, but pretty often. It's like putting syrup on your pancakes. Do you have to? No, of course not. But you're missing out if you never even try it. You'll probably even prefer it. Fucking porn has ruined sex for women. Always use it. Toys, PIV, hands. Doesn't matter, me and my partner always use it. I used to date a guy who had an automatic lube dispenser repurposed soap dispenser on his bedside table on Faro, and this guy was trying to shame you for using lube. On Faro, tell me you don't fuck without telling me you don't fuck. I always have a towel nearby if lube is getting involved for the same reason. I hate the feeling of it on my hands, and worrying about it getting everywhere, when I should be worrying about, the sex. Lube is a godsend, especially when going more than one round. I use lube all the time. I love wet platinum. I have been taking many meds since my 30 south that cause dryness. If you don't need lube, you're blessed. Looks like I'm the dissenting voice here. I'm 43. Don't use it in my current relationship and also didn't in my 15-year marriage prior. I only use it during masturbation alone. If anything, I get too wet and I almost feel lean. I have to stop and use a towel to dry things down a bit. Imagine being so limited and having no knowledge of the incredible amount of options available out there, and lacking empathy and understanding that not everyone has sex in the exact same way. I almost feel sorry for him. But considering how little effort is required to learn these things, he is just showing his privilege. Only use lube for HJ. I don't like using it and never needed to. However, I will probably need it more when I'm losing all those important hormones. It's certainly not a deal breaker for sex. I think your friend sounds immature, and I don't think those who end up in bed with him will be having good time. Always, 100 of the time. I can't imagine having sex without it, especially because I typically prefer oral before P&V. And by the time I'm ready for P&V, all that natural moisture is gone. I use lube. It's vital now that I'm in perimenopause. My poor vagina does her level best, but she dries out real fast. Now when a dipshit dude says something like this about lube or toys or whatever, it's just them showing their whole ass for all the world to see. It's ego and insecurity. Part of my talk I had with my now adult son was the importance of lubricant in both comfort and safety. A condom less lube than needed is a condom more likely to tear. Plus, he needed to understand women's bodies are incredibly fluid from day to day, and one never knows the conditions you're working under. In short, lube is part of having sex, period. That is a man who gives zero Fs about the women he's been with, and maybe never will. To him, women are just fleshlights, a vessel for his pain. As long as he feels great, nothing else matters. I'm 4 months postpartum and breastfeeding. Lube is a requirement for me. Lol. And guess who has no problem with it? My husband, who is grateful for any chance we get to have sex, because taking care of a small child and a baby is exhausting. We started postpartum and found out it was just better to use lube most of the time. So we never stopped. Little lady will be 2 in a few weeks, and I'm never going back to a life without it. I don't prefer it, but we use it sometimes and warming lube. It is nice for the parts of my cycle when my wetness is too watery to be slippery. I recently got into it again, and I'm sad I didn't use it more my whole sexual life tbh. When I was on birth control, it was basically the only way I could have sex without bleeding. Now it's a less commonly needed supplement for me, but still good for making sure things stay slippery the whole time. I try to make sure I always have some. Lube is for everyone. Lube makes the lovemaking lovemaking. I use it every time. I'm in perimenopause now, so whether I like it or not, it is sometimes necessary. But we've always used lube for sex. It feels better for both of us and makes sure things stay comfy. Also makes it easier to be a little more vigorous or go for longer more rounds if we're in the mood. I also don't like when it gets everywhere. So we have one of those special water-resistant sex blankies and keep some old towels in the underbed storage for cleanup. I don't need lube at the beginning, usually, but if it goes for a long time, natural wetness doesn't last. At least for me. Not everyone needs it all the time, but it is such a normal thing to use that I'm surprised by his reaction. Does he never try different things? Only had one partner who didn't need it, or think they didn't. I have so many questions XD, I use it 75 of the time, depending on where I am in my cycle. I am somewhere between the Sahara or Niagara Falls. I'm not a fan of lube, but my partner is, mostly for anal. Lube makes things way too slippery for me when it mixes with my natural lubrication and I lose a lot of sensation. Lube is awesome. And I say this as someone who gets real wet real easy. Have you tried all the different kinds of lube there are? They're like adding spices to your food. Sometimes my brain and body aren't on the same page and artificial is better than dry. I'm a woman and I've only used lube twice in my life and I hated it both times. I don't particularly need it, but I'd be willing to use it if I ever needed it. I don't have anything against it in the sense that I think it's bad to need it. I just don't like how it gets everywhere. The scented ones absolutely disgust me. The scent is too much. And the unscented ones still make things taste gross. And I feel like I'm wiping it off for days after. Yeah, I shower. It's more a mental thing than anything. I've only used it twice, so I'm sure there are good lubes out there that I just never tried. But since I didn't like it and didn't really need it, I've just had sex without it ever since. What's his problem with lube? Lube is great. That kid doesn't know what he's missing. OP, just write it off as he's inexperienced and put it out of your mind. Micro lacerations are real and increase infection chances. I'm a dude. Lube is better for everyone for both safety and comfort. WTF is that guy on about? Lube for the win. AWW babes, he's telling on himself. Dog, there's already so much wrong with my body. If I tried doing anything without lube, I'd give myself a whole new slew of problems. LMAO, I'm in my 60 seconds and I've never once used lube in my life. I know a lot of people like me who have never used it, but I also know a lot of people who use it regularly. I think it just depends on the person. There's certainly nothing wrong with using it. I go to a lot of sex parties and swingers clubs, and every room has lube in it. I don't think your friend gets laid very much. Or if he does, I don't think he's pleasing his lady friends. That's such a weird reaction from him. Your friend's reaction is inherently misogynistic. Fuck that. Yes, I use lube and love it. Lube protects women from UTIs. Lack of abundant lubrication creates friction, which causes micro-tearing in our anatomy. These tears break the protective skin barrier and give harmful bacteria a place to establish and proliferate. Lube prevents this and makes it very difficult for any bacteria present to get a foothold. It wants to be pH and osmolality salt content balanced. Avoid fragrance, flavors, or additives. Good Clean Love is an excellent brand. And never use oil-based lube with condoms. It causes breakage. Water-based is always safe. Lube makes sex safer and more pleasurable for women. Your friend is S dickhead. As a person who also hates the feeling of most lube on my hands, I strongly recommend the use of a nitrile glove. It really is a game changer. Guy friends have no clue. Of course we use lube. I definitely have used lube. And it's good for when things aren't wet enough, but I prefer not to use it when it isn't needed because it's just more annoying to clean up after. Although there are sensation lubes that are amazing externally tingling lube getting internal sucks, though my wife has an autoimmune that makes her drier in many areas. Without lube, we wouldn't be having a child. I have to use it. My partner is large. I use it 95% of the time. I didn't for 6 years, and for 2 years of that even my condoms had no lube. I started out with spermicide condoms that burned me and I couldn't find any lubricated ones without spermicide for some reason but could find lube-free ones. I only started using lubricated condoms because subsequent partners were girthier, and I now actually have bottles of lubricant because medications have made it necessary. Yeah, I use it regularly. Without is fine for a quickie, but if the sex is lasting for more than 5 minutes, we're gonna need lube or I'll be sore. So he's really telling on himself. If a man has something negative to say about your personal preferences towards sex, it sounds like an opinion to be ignored. There are so many different kinds of lubes to use and explore that can add different sensations too. That dude just sounds narrow-minded. When I was 19, I had a boyfriend whose mother was a massage therapist. One night he was giving me a massage with warm oils and we got carried away. It was a revelation, and after that I never looked back. These days I use organic coconut oil though. I bet he's not using tools either because a battery-powered friend makes him feel emasculated with almost every partner I've ever had, including one-night stands. No one has ever been fazed by it. Most really like it, but no negative reactions at all. Your guy friend sounds childish and maybe sexually inexperienced. A warm, damp washcloth in a little bowl next to the bed helps deal with lube issues. I wonder if the folks saying that don't use lube treat porn as instructional and figure a little saliva is all that is needed. All I heard was, "You like pleasure? Why?" Yes, we do. Even as a man, this makes me shake my head in disgust. Straight up, tell me you're awful in bed without telling me you're awful in bed. Every time you have sex, you should use lube. Wild that people say this out loud. Since when do we even listen to what dumb random dudes say? They have no vaginas, no vagina, no opinion. Partners who don't want to use lube are losers. I said it. Spit is anti-lube and there's a million good reasons to use it and only one reason not to. That it's truly not needed and would not improve the experience. Otherwise, lube up. We use it every time. Horniness might be a light switch for men, but I don't turn on and off like a faucet. Sometimes I'm mentally ready, but my body hasn't caught up yet. It never hurts to have some KY jelly as a backup. Also, longer sex sessions, endless friction will chafe after a time without some more grease. It's definitely not something for him to act weird about. It's one of the most common sex-related items out there. Now I'm side-eyeing him for acting weird about it. Switch it from the default bottle to a mini bottle with a pump top. It's way less messy and easier to leave on the bed and not make a mess. I know hardly anyone who doesn't use lube. Please tell me this guy is a teenager or barely in his 20s. This is so embarrassing for him. Hoping anyone he's been sexually active with finds more luck in the future. I prefer sex with lube and never go without it. I use lube. I've always used lube. A lot more men seem to have it now, but I often throw it in my purse if I think I'm going to hook up. If a guy questions you or acts weird, I am casual about it and find taking a do-tone works. For example, yeah. Dude, of course. I've never been with a girl who has to. What are you talking about? You know a lot of things affect how wet a woman is, right? Like allergy meds, time of the month. Did you not know that? Have you been in a relationship? Look at them like you feel sorry for them if they keep trying to argue. I usually hit them with a "why are you so obsessed with this?" It's weird, I prefer not to use it unless necessary, but that's because I have a sensory ICK about it. Even the best ones, which Imho is the slick with gel, has a slight difference from my own wetness and it feels weird to me. I also don't like getting my upper legs all messy, so I don't like things being overly wet. But I hardly believe most people are like this, considering how specific it is. He thinks it's gross to use lube is the 20-something version of EU. It's gross to let someone put their tongue in your mouth. That I do remember thinking once. Even when I was younger, there were activities and days of the month that benefited from lube. Queer man here. Lube can make anal sex much less painful. Straight people can have anal sex too though. I heard an adult film actor activist on the radio say lube is a must. I figure she knew what she was talking about. They've written whole songs about it. The more moisture, the better. Friction is real. Are these teenage boys? Can't be over 20? That's a man who has never discovered the wonder of lube. It sounds like I love lube. Sometimes it's easy to get naturally lubricated and sometimes not so much. No matter the level of arousal, and if you're dry, intercourse will be painful AF. Who would prefer that instead of using lube and have both parties enjoying themselves? Lube is awesome, and whoever said that to you is missing out. That guy is an idiot. By the way, as great as lube can be, warm coconut oil is even better. It is really slick and looks shiny and sexy like lube. Plus, it has the added bonus of tasting good. Red wine and popcorn. I absolutely need lube. For my CL, T-sex toys and for penetrative sex. I'm in my 30 seconds, my doesn't get as wet as she used to. Odd reaction from the guy. Bottom line, use whatever the hell you and your partner need to use for as much mutual pleasure as possible. There are, like, sexy lubes. Lubes that tingle. All sorts of lubes. Dudes need to get out there and experience the world, lol every time. I need it for my external bits to prevent friction fissures while doing the deed. No lube. No sex as far as I'm concerned. Wife and I use lube. It's pretty standard. Nothing wrong with someone not needing lube. I guess more of a problem that they'd act like there was something wrong with using it. Like, what a weird hill to die on. Working in sexual health, we give out condoms and lube for free. I think this view isn't as gendered as you may think. I think it's an Agenex Bryant's thing. A lot of young women will refuse lube and look very shocked offended that I offer it. I've lost count of the amount of times I've explained that. It doesn't mean you can't get wet, and that it's not an insult. Lube makes sex better. I never use it, don't like the texture or smell, and don't have a physical need for it. But if you need it, you need it. It's a tool. Wouldn't argue with someone with those thoughts, frankly. Wait until you are in your mid-late 70s. Definitely necessary. Plus a Lilo Lily Model 3 can enhance things. I always put it on the doorknob. Keeps the kids out. I've used lube since I became sexually active at 20. My boyfriend at the time had a bad habit of going when he was ready, but I was not. I actually had problems with bleeding. Men are selfish. Never needed it with my husband. Now he has passed and I'm getting to perimenopause age, I needed a whole lot of. I'm even going to think about masturbating. So he's kind of a bummer to his girlfriends then? Yes. Women use lube. I'm 50, so I have to use tons of it. Your guy friend doesn't know much about women. Personally, I don't use it or need it. I have tried it but don't like the feel of it sensory-wise and it didn't hide in anything. Sex is different for us all, lube or no lube. Who gives a damn as long as the sex is good? If my partner is circumcised, I'm gonna need lube. If I'm on my dry week, I'm gonna need lube. If I'm using toys, I'm gonna need lube. If I have my period and hormones are making me dry, I'm gonna need a dot of lube to help get that tampon in. He is just outing himself as inexperienced or not caring about the comfort of his partner. How many ladies use and possibly prefer using lube during sex? I feel like a lot of men look down on using lube because, to them, that means they weren't able to get the woman wet enough to have pleasurable sex. Like, nah bro, you can get me as wet as possible, but lube will still make it feel better. The wetter, the better. Give it 30 years and say, you use that blue pill? I sell sex toys and the number of people who are like, we don't need lube, yes you do, I am perimenopausal. Yes, lube is a lifesaver when you're feeling turned on, but your body is not doing its thing. Haha. My bestie's ex-husband used to spit on her and often claimed she was the problem because she didn't get wet. Mate, you just outed yourself for being a bad lover who relies on porn for tips on how to please a woman. It's all fake, buddy. It's all fake. Absolutely. I use lube. Even when I'm wet AF, it doesn't necessarily last forever. And the rougher we are, the more it's crucial to avoid too much friction. I swear people who don't use lube can't possibly be comfortable unless it's lasting less than 2 minutes. My birth control makes me drier than a burned pizza. I need the lube. I just bought a 12-pack of super soft washcloths to keep in a basket by the bed for this reason. For lube. Wiping off every time. Multiple times. He's clearly never pleasured a woman. You can pry the fuckwater TM out of cold, dead dry hands. Some people prefer it. Some people need it. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Microideas are a thing. Why put yourself out of commission? Get an incredulous look on your face and ask, you don't? Pass the energy back to him. Lube is awesome when you're in doggy because doggy can dry you out like a motherfucker. I love lube. I lubricate very easily and totally enough to get the job done, but that extra slick that lube gives, especially silicone lube for sex, is phenomenal. It is an enhancement for me, but not a necessity. But when it is a necessity, it is a godsend because older women or women who don't lubricate enough for penetration would have to go through immense pain just to have sex. And sex isn't fun when your vagina is getting carpet burns. We don't really use it often, but we have some for when if we need it for sure. I'm someone who considers myself as getting too wet. Even had an ex-boyfriend complain about it, and it gave me a complex for ages. Not sure why that dude was acting so disgusted judgmental about lube. It's totally normal. Genuinely surprised by the replies. Only ever used it for anal. Never had any reason to use it elsewhere. Maybe with age that will change. Yep, around 1/3 of the time I need it except for backdoor access. That's 100 lube-assisted lesbian here, and I have always used lube, whether with a partner or alone. Why would anyone not if they could? Lube is extremely important. A woman can't be gushing wet on demand. It's part of safe and enjoyable sex. I used to use it sometimes when dry. Then I started drinking way more water every day and haven't had any dryness problems since. However, everything about sex is either normal or weird, depending on who you ask. We all have our preferences, and as long as the parties involved are all consenting and into it, it doesn't matter what any third party thinks. Not a lady here. I don't always understand why she wants the lube, but I never argue and she's always right about it. Lube is always correct. It's never a bad idea. I don't love it. I think it gives me UTIs. But as I dry up and wither away in my 40 seconds, I may need suggestions for a gentler kind. I had a similar issue, so I started using water-based. Nothing fancy, just really basic lube, and it works perfectly. I hope you show him all these comments. I'm bringing the thread to the next party if you care about your coochie, especially if you have sex often. Lube is the way to go. It can get really painful otherwise. But then again, I think this is common knowledge. I wouldn't know about the sex often part since I barely have a sex drive to begin with. I get super wet, so no, it's never been a thing for me. I've given several dudes an epiphany by suggesting they should also use lube. You know, when by themselves. Vaseline or hand lotion are very weak substitutes. Love using lube. The heating and tingling ones are fun too, after oral. Get the lube. Or before oral if you opt for the flavored type. I use lube when I have the fan on. I'm usually pretty wet, but the fan will dry us out. Also, if my partner is fairly large, then we need lube. I have 3 different kinds for different situations. Silicone for non-silicone toy long play or shorter foreplay play. Regular water based for reapplying after the silicone. Thick or anal water based for regular play or silicone toy play. We use silicone anal for regular play after having kids, since there was a while that natural lubrication was awry. While there is a benefit to discomfort in play, it should be for a reason that all parties will appreciate. Lube always, especially with condoms. No, I don't like the feeling and I didn't know what I would use it for TBH. A guy I was dating briefly told me I was like a middle-aged woman. I was 21. I couldn't get wet BC of meds. My husband likes it though. We use it even when I'm wet. We use it maybe 95% of the time. My wife definitely prefers lube. We don't have PIV sex without. She was very resistant at first, mostly because she felt like as if her body wasn't working properly and somehow she felt guilty for needing assistance. I'm glad she got over it. This was me too. I never used to, but my partner is too big. Now it's a requirement, even though it's kind of a pain. Life is too short for painful sex. My husband and I pretty much use it every time. Love lube. We have extremely long sessions in my marriage. It's essential. I once upon a time considered the fact that a woman uses lube to be negative due to reasoning like if you need lube, you're not wet enough. So you're not attracted to me, or if you need lube, I'm not performing adequately. I don't know your friend, but it's possible his line of thought came from a similar source. The disgust I had was more to do with disgust with myself projected on my partner. I just didn't realize it at the time. It wasn't until my 30 seconds that I started to see these things through a proper lens. These are, of course, quite silly. Over the years, I have learned that lube is not only something to use when you need it, but that it's something to be sought out. It's not a threat, it's a tool. I can even see how certain negative associations start if you're partway through the act and you stop and grab some lube. I could see it being interpreted as a failure on his part. Again, it's silly, and I don't want to sit here and make it your responsibility to educate a man. But I figure since you're trying to prove a point to your friend that you're at least a little interested, I would posit that you not only are justified in your position, but that it's ridiculous there's a debate in the first place. Whatever disgust your friend is a problem with what he has going on in his head, even if using lube wasn't normal, which, to be clear, it is normal. So if you wouldn't mind passing a note to your friend for me, man to man, to rethink his reaction to lube or toys or whatever, and really think about why he has that reaction in the first place and whether it actually makes sense. I didn't realize this was controversial. I'm not a woman, but I've been using lube since I started having sex. It just makes things easier, better, and smoother for all involved parties. And as mentioned, protects against the UTIs that spit can contribute to. Now that I'm in my 40 seconds, I don't get as wet as I did in my teens 20s. It happens with age and with perimenopause in clear view. My natural lubrication doesn't always match my physical desire. There's absolutely zero problem or shame using or needing lube at any age. For solo or partnered sex, there's no age limit. I was put on Lexapro a few years ago, and it makes me so dry, like even if I mentally am horny, I don't get very wet down there anymore, and for that reason we use lube. Tell me you don't communicate well with your sexual partners without telling me you don't communicate well with your sexual partners. JFC, that guy is giving major ICK vibes. Of course, women appreciate lube. My wife and I are both women and both use lube when we're having fun. Is this guy young? Or maybe inexperienced? Definitely shouldn't be shooting off at the mouth if you don't know what you're talking about. We use it sometimes as needed. Not every time, but it's definitely nice to have the option. Dude definitely doesn't fuck if he doesn't know about lube.